Mom, I don't have time for your drama. Those were my daughter's last words before leaving me alone on my 72nd birthday. I never thought the day would come when my own flesh and blood would treat me like a nuisance. Today, I'm going to tell you something I never thought I'd tell. If you also believe that we still have value, even after 60, type 1 in the comments. And please, leave a like and subscribe. Let's show that we are strong together. My name is Amelia Reed. I'm 72 years old, and I live in a small brownstone in the Lincoln Park neighborhood of Chicago. My wrinkled hands still remember every loaf of bread I baked for my family, every tear I wiped from my daughter's eyes when she was little, every dawn I spent awake watching over her when she had a fever. For 45 years, I was a single mother after my husband Michael died in a car accident. Laura was only 8, and from that moment on, my life was split in two. Before and after I became her sole provider. The morning of my birthday, I woke up as I always do, at 6 in the morning, to the sound of the garbage truck making its way down the tree-lined streets of my neighborhood. I got up slowly, feeling the ache in my knees, which are no longer the same ones that chased Laura around the playground at the Lincoln Park Zoo. I made coffee, brewed strong with a pinch of cinnamon just the way my mother taught me, and sat at the small kitchen table where I had so many times helped my daughter with her homework. The yellow walls I painted 10 years ago now looked faded, but the memories were still intact in every corner. The night before, I had sent Laura a text. "Honey, are you coming for dinner tomorrow? It's my birthday and I made your favorite pot roast, the one you loved so much as a girl." The message was marked, "Read at 11:43 p.m., not a single reply. I spent the whole morning cleaning the house, arranging the flowers from the small backyard garden, and setting the table with my best china, the set I bought years ago on our last trip together before she decided that spending time with me was a waste of her time. At 3 in the afternoon, while I was arranging the embroidered napkins my sister Rose gave me before she passed, I heard the roar of a luxury sedan's engine. It was Laura. My heart fluttered like a little girl waiting for Santa Claus. I saw her get out of the car, elegant in her gray pantsuit, her hair perfectly styled in a high bun, the dark sunglasses she never took off, not even to greet me. She was carrying a bag from Jewel Osco, her cell phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, Richard, I understand, but I need those contracts ready by Monday." "No, I can't stay long. I just came to see my mom for 5 minutes." 5 minutes. I had spent 5 hours cooking for her, and she was granting me 5 minutes of her precious life. I opened the door before she could knock, with a smile that came from my soul, but would soon vanish. "Hi, honey. So good to see you." She walked in without looking me in the eye, straight to the sofa, dropping the bag on the coffee table where I had placed a small vase of daisies. "Happy birthday, Mom. I brought you some dinner because I know you don't like to cook much." A lie. I cooked every single day. The truth was, she no longer liked my food. I opened the bag. It was a frozen tray of Stouffer's lasagna, the kind they sell in the freezer aisle for $8.99. "Aren't you going to stay for dinner, honey? I made your favorite pot roast, just like when you were a little girl. Remember? You always said it was the best in the world." "Oh, Mom, I don't have time to get all nostalgic. I have an important business dinner. Besides, that pot roast is so heavy, and you know I'm watching my figure." She stood up from the sofa as if on springs, constantly checking her phone. "Can't you cancel? It's my birthday, Laura. It only comes once a year." "Birthdays come every year, Mom. Business deals don't. Besides, I came. I brought you something. I did my part. What more do you want?" Her words hit me like hail. Cold, hard, painful. "I just wanted to spend time with you, honey. Like before." Before was before, Mom. Now I have responsibilities. I can't be stopping by all the time to see what you need. I have my own life, my job, my commitments. She gave me a kiss on the cheek, one of those mechanical, emotionless pecks, and headed for the door. "I have to go now. Enjoy your dinner." And she left, just like that. So cruel. I stood there in the living room holding that frozen dinner, listening to the sound of her car's engine fading down North Clark Street. The aroma of pot roast filled the house, mingling with the scent of freshly baked bread and the apple pie that she used to love so much. A table set for two, a mother alone, a frozen dinner as the only birthday gift. I sat in my favorite chair, the wooden rocker Michael gave me when Laura was born, and for the first time in years, I cried without trying to stop the tears. They weren't just tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of disappointment, of a humiliation so deep it ached in my bones. When had my daughter stopped seeing me as her mother and started seeing me as an obligation? That night, as I heated the frozen lasagna in the microwave, I wondered if this was how the rest of my life would be, receiving crumbs of affection from the person I loved most in the world, being treated like a burden instead of the woman who sacrificed everything to give her the best life possible. The microwave beeped. The lasagna was ready, cold in the middle, just like my heart. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay awake in the queen-sized bed I no longer shared with anyone, remembering every sacrifice I had made for Laura over the past 44 years, as if my mind wanted to torture me with the evidence of everything she had forgotten. Do you remember, Laura? I remember everything. I remember when you were 12 and got pneumonia. The doctor at the public clinic told me you needed a special medication that cost $500. I was cleaning offices at night and looking after Mrs. Peterson's granddaughter during the day to make ends meet. I sold my wedding ring, that white gold ring your father had given me when we got married at St. Michael's Church. I took it to a pawn shop on the south side, and the man offered me exactly $500, as if fate had calculated that a mother's love was worth exactly what it cost to save her daughter. I never told you where the money came from. I just told you everything was going to be okay, as I gave you the pills every 6 hours, watching over you for 15 days until the fever finally broke. Do you remember when you wanted to study business at Northwestern University? I knew we didn't have the money, but I also knew it was your dream. I got a second job cleaning the Sinclair's house in the Gold Coast on weekends. I would get up at 5 in the morning, take 3 city buses to get there, and come home at 10 at night. For 4 years, I did that. Every Saturday and Sunday, cleaning marble floors that cost more than everything I would ever earn in my lifetime. Mrs. Sinclair was polite, but her teenage daughter spoke to me as if I were invisible. She barely acknowledged my presence. I saved every single dollar for your tuition. When you graduated with honors, you cried in the auditorium and told me, "I owe it all to you, Mom. You're the strongest woman in the world." I cried that day too. I thought it had all been worth it. Do you remember when you got pregnant with Ethan at 26 and Robert left you? You came to my house crying, with a suitcase and a broken heart. "I don't know what I'm going to do, Mom. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. I have nothing. You have your mother." I told you, and that's all you need. You stayed with me for 8 months. I worked at the pharmacy and would come home every evening to find you lying on the sofa, watching daytime TV and complaining about how unfair life was. I cooked, I cleaned, I did the laundry, and I rubbed your swollen feet every night. When Ethan was born, I took on a $5,000 debt to pay for the private birth because you wanted your baby born at Northwestern Memorial, not the county hospital. He's my only son, Mom. He deserves the best. It took me 2 years to pay off that debt. 2 years of eating mostly pasta and beans so I could make the $150 monthly payments. But Ethan was born healthy and beautiful, and you were happy. Then you got a job at the insurance company and moved out with Ethan. You told me you needed your space, and it was time to be independent. I understood. A mother always understands, but you kept coming back whenever you needed something. When Ethan started private school and you were short on the registration fee, "Mom, can you lend me $1,000? I'll pay you back next month." When your car broke down and you needed a down payment for a new one, "Mom, it's only $2,500. You have savings, right?" When you wanted to go on vacation to Miami with your friends, "Mom, I need to de-stress. Can you watch Ethan for 2 weeks and also lend me money for the trip?" I always said yes. I always found a way. I sold things. I borrowed. I worked extra hours. I skipped meals. But I always found a way to give you what you needed. Do you know how much money I've lent you over all these years, Laura? I do. Because I wrote it all down in a little blue notebook I keep in my nightstand. $28,500 over 18 years. Money you never paid back, money I never asked for. Because a mother doesn't charge her daughter for loving her. But what hurts the most isn't the money. It's that at some point, you stopped saying thank you. You stopped hugging me when I helped you. You stopped asking me how I was doing. Little by little, I became your personal ATM. Someone to turn to when you needed something, but someone to ignore when everything was fine. Do you remember Ethan's 16th birthday party? You threw a huge bash at the Oak Room at the Drake Hotel and invited all his friends from prep school. I arrived early to help you decorate, and when the guests started arriving, you sent me to the kitchen. Mom, maybe you should stay back here and help with the food. We don't want it to look too homemade. Homemade, as if I were an embarrassment to you. I spent the entire party serving drinks and cutting cake in the kitchen while you paraded around with the other parents, showing off your job and your new car. When someone asked who had organized everything so beautifully, you said, "Oh, I hired a wonderful service." A service. That's what I was to you. Ethan came into the kitchen that night and said, "Grandma, why aren't you out at the party? It's boring without you." That boy, at least, still saw me. The following years were the same. Me getting older, you climbing the corporate ladder, and the distance between us growing ever wider. Your visits became less frequent, your calls shorter, your requests for help more common than your displays of affection. When you turned 40, I planned a surprise dinner at my house. I invited your friends, cooked for 2 days, decorated everything with balloons and flowers. You arrived an hour late and left after 30 minutes because you had an early start the next day. When I turned 70, you forgot completely. You only remembered 3 days later because your secretary reminded you she had marked Mom's birthday on your calendar. "Oh, sorry, Mom. I've just been so swamped. How about we go out for dinner this weekend?" That weekend, you canceled because you had a very important meeting. And now here I am, 2 years later, remembering all this while holding the frozen dinner you gave me for my 72nd birthday. I got out of bed, turned on the kitchen light, and took my little blue notebook from the drawer where I kept the letters your father wrote to me when we were young. I began to turn the pages, reading each entry. June 2005. Laura, car loan, $2,500. December 2007. Ethan, school uniforms and supplies, $350. April 2010. Laura, Miami vacation, $1,200. November 2015. Laura, Ethan's medical emergency, $1,800. Page after page of my love converted into numbers. My sacrifices reduced to figures. I closed the little book and hugged it to my chest. For the first time in years, I didn't feel sadness. I felt rage. A clean, clear, necessary rage. My daughter had forgotten who I was. She had forgotten everything we had built together. She had forgotten that before I was her personal ATM, I had been her mother, her refuge, her strength. But I hadn't forgotten a thing, and maybe it was time to remind her. The next morning, I woke up with a strange feeling in my chest. It wasn't sadness. It was something different, as if a new woman had been born inside me during the night, a woman who was no longer willing to be invisible. I made my coffee as I did every morning, but this time I didn't sit at the kitchen table. I went to the small study where Michael used to work when he was alive. The little room I had turned into my sanctuary after his death. There was his wooden desk, with its drawers I had never had the courage to fully open. Michael had been a reserved, hard-working man who managed our finances with an almost obsessive precision. He always told me, "Don't you worry about money, Amelia. I'll take care of it." And I, like a good wife of my generation, never asked too many questions. But that morning, something pushed me to open the main drawer. Inside, I found perfectly organized folders with handwritten labels. Investments, properties, insurance, Bank of America, Chase. My heart began to beat faster. Properties? What properties? We only had this house. I opened the first folder and almost dropped my coffee on the floor. Deeds to 3 condo apartments in Lincoln Park. 3 condos that, according to the documents, had been purchased between 2010 and 2015. All in the name of Amelia Reed. All paid in full. How was this possible? I knew nothing about this. I kept looking. Bank of America statements showed an investment account with a balance of $850,000. $850,000. My hands were shaking so much I had to put the papers down on the desk. In the Chase folder was another account, $475,000. in certificates of deposit that renewed automatically each year. Where had all this money come from? Michael had worked as an accountant for a mid-sized company. He made a good living, but not enough to accumulate over $1 million. At the back of the drawer, I found a letter addressed to me, my name written in Michael's careful handwriting. The envelope was sealed and dated, to be opened after my death. I opened it with trembling fingers. My dearest Amelia, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you, and you're probably discovering things I kept secret for years. Please forgive me for that. When your father died in 1995, you inherited a plot of land out near O'Hare that you thought was worthless. Remember? You wanted to sell it, but I told you we should hold on to it, just in case. That land turned out to be right in the path of the airport expansion in 2018. I sold it for over $1 million. I also invested every spare dollar from my salary for 30 years. While you were worried about giving all your money to Laura, I was secretly investing to secure our future. I bought the Lincoln Park condos when prices were low, before the neighborhood became what it is today. Now they're worth more than triple. Everything is in your name, Amelia. It was always in your name. You're a millionaire, and you didn't even know it. Why did I never tell you? Because I knew your heart. If you had known we had money, you would have given it all to Laura before she learned to value it. And you. I wanted our daughter to love you for who you are, not for what you have. But if you ever feel that she treats you as if you're worthless, I want you to know that you have the power to change things. You have more money than Laura will make in her entire life. Use it wisely. The condos are managed by a real estate company. They deposit $6,000 into your Bank of America account every month. It's money that has been accumulating for years because you never touched it. You are a wealthy woman, Amelia. You always were. You just didn't know it. With all my love, Michael P.S. The lawyer's papers are in the red folder. Martin Shaw helped me set everything up. He knows you are the sole owner of everything. I dropped the letter and just sat in Michael's chair for, I don't know how long. My mind couldn't process the information. I was a millionaire. I had been a millionaire for years without knowing it. While Laura was treating me like a financial burden, I had more money than she could possibly imagine. While I was selling my few pieces of jewelry to lend her money, I had bank accounts I didn't know existed. While she was giving me a frozen dinner for my birthday, I owned properties worth more than everything she possessed. The irony was so cruel that I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. I found the red folder and called the lawyer, Martin Shaw. His secretary scheduled me for that very afternoon. His office was in the John Hancock Center on the 85th floor. When I arrived, he was waiting for me with all the documents spread across his desk. Mrs. Reed, at last. Michael left very clear instructions for me to assist you whenever you came. He was a man in his 50s, elegant, with a kind smile. Mr. Shaw, I don't understand any of this. Is it all true? Completely true. Your husband was a very smart man. He invested every dollar with a perfect strategy. Currently, you have a portfolio of approximately $4 million in liquid assets and properties worth another $1.5 million. In total, almost $3 million. $3 million. But why did I never know? Michael explained he wanted to protect you from family pressures. He told me, and I quote, "My wife has such a big heart that if she knows we have money, she'll give it all to our daughter and be left with nothing in her old age. I'd rather Laura love her for being a good mother, not a rich one." And the apartments? They're fully rented. Excellent tenants. Every month you receive $6,000 deposited directly into your account. Since you never touched it, you now have an additional $500,000 accumulated in that account alone. He showed me the statements. It was real. All of it. Mr. Shaw, I have a very direct question. Does my daughter know anything about this? Absolutely nothing. Michael was very clear on that point. No one but you and I know the truth. I took a taxi home, my head spinning. During the whole drive down Michigan Avenue, I saw the city with different eyes. Those skyscrapers, those elegant shops, those expensive restaurants. I could afford all of it. I could buy whatever I wanted. But what hurt the most wasn't that I had lived with unnecessary limitations for years. What hurt the most was understanding that Laura had treated me like a poor, needy old woman when I had more money than she could earn in 10 years of work. That evening, as I ate the leftovers of the pot roast I had cooked for my birthday, my phone rang. Mom, it's me. Hey, I need to ask you a favor. Of course. Another favor. What do you need, honey? Well, Ethan wants to buy a new laptop for college, but it's super expensive. It's $1,500. Do you think you could help me out? I know you have your savings. My savings. If she only knew how much savings her poor mother had. Laura, when was the last time you told me you loved me? What? Oh, Mom, don't start with your drama. Are you going to help me or not? When was the last time you asked me how I am? Mom, please, it's an emergency. Ethan starts classes next week. And when was the last time you came to see me without asking for money? Silence on the other end of the line. I don't know what you're talking about. I always come to see you. Yes. When you need something. Look, Mom, if you don't want to help, just say so. Don't try to make me feel guilty. There it was. The usual manipulation. Making me feel guilty for not giving her what she wanted. But this time was different. This time, I knew something she didn't. Laura, I'm going to think about your request. Think about it? Mom, you've never hesitated to help me before. That's because I've never been 72 years old with a frozen dinner for a birthday present before. I hung up the phone. For the first time in decades, I had said no to my daughter. And for the first time in decades, I felt free. Not even an hour had passed since I hung up when I heard the roar of Laura's car pulling up to my house. This time, she wasn't alone. I heard 2 car doors slam shut. I peeked through the living room window. Laura was storming toward my door, followed by Ethan, my grandson, the 20-year-old boy I had helped raise as if he were my own son, was here to pressure me. They rang the doorbell insistently, 3, 4, 5 times in a row. I opened the door to find them there. Laura with her arms crossed and an expression of rage I hadn't seen since she was a teenager. Ethan behind her, avoiding my gaze. What is your problem, Mom? Laura pushed past me into the house without an invitation, as usual. You've never spoken to me like that. What is this "I'm going to think about it" nonsense? Hello, Laura. Hello, Ethan. I tried to keep my voice calm. Would you like to come into the living room? We don't want to go anywhere. We want to know why you're suddenly being so selfish. Selfish? After 44 years of giving her everything, I was the selfish one. Ethan finally looked at me. Grandma, Mom said you don't want to help me with the laptop. I thought I could always count on you. My heart broke. Laura had brought Ethan to manipulate me, using the love I had for him. It was a calculated, cruel strategy. Ethan, sweetie, sit down. We all need to talk. There's nothing to talk about, Laura interrupted. Either you help us like you always have, or you tell us right now that you don't care about us anymore. Is that what you think? That I don't care? Well, it seems that way. First the drama yesterday with your birthday, now this. What's next? Are you going to start charging us for visits? I sat in my favorite armchair and looked at them. Really looked at them. Laura was wearing a suit that cost more than 2 months of my mortgage. Her shoes were Italian leather. Her handbag was genuine designer. Ethan was wearing limited edition Nikes that must have cost at least $200. And yet they came to my house asking for money as if it were their last desperate option. Laura, how much do you make a year? What does that have to do with anything? Answer me. How much? $75,000. But that's not the point. I have expenses. $75,000. Almost exactly what I made from my rents and investments without lifting a finger. The difference was she spent it all, and I had millions saved without even realizing it. And what do you spend that $75,000 on? Oh, Mom, on living, on my apartment, my car, my personal expenses. Not all of us can live like you, never going out, never spending on anything, never spending on anything, as if my life were less important than hers. Ethan, tell me the truth. Do you really need this laptop, or do you just want it? My grandson shifted uncomfortably. Well, the one I have still works, but this new one is faster and has better features. So you want it? You don't need it. That doesn't matter, Laura exploded. If his grandmother can help him, why shouldn't she? What are you saving all that money for if not for your family? What am I saving it for? I repeated slowly. Laura, do you have any idea how much money I have? Well, I don't know exactly, but I know you have some. Dad was always a saver, and you never spend anything on yourself. You must have at least $100,000 saved up. $100,000. If she only knew I had nearly 3 million. And you think that money just fell from the sky? No, but you don't need it either. Look at how you live. This old house, your 10-year-old clothes. You never travel, you never buy anything. What good is having money if you don't use it? Maybe I'm saving it for when you both show me that you value me for something other than my money. Laura laughed, a bitter, cruel laugh. Now you're the victim? Please, Mom. All my life you've been the one insisting on helping us. Nobody forced you. That's true. Nobody forced me, but nobody ever thanked me either. What do you mean we don't thank you? Ethan always says thank you. Saying thank you isn't the same as gratitude, Laura. Thank you is a word you say out of politeness. Gratitude is remembering what someone has done for you. Oh, here we go with your cheap philosophies. Ethan suddenly stood up. Mom, maybe we should go. I don't feel right about this. We're not leaving until your grandmother understands that she's being ridiculous. Ridiculous. I stood up too, feeling the blood boil in my veins. Ridiculous for not wanting to hand out my money every time you decide to ask for it? It's not handing it out. It's helping your family. Family? Laura, when was the last time you visited me without asking for something? We already talked about this last night. No, we didn't. You dodged the question. I'm going to ask you again. When was the last time you came here just because you wanted to spend time with me? Silence. Laura looked at me with hatred, but couldn't answer. Because the answer was never. Ethan, you tell me. When was the last time you called me without your mother telling you to? My grandson looked down. Grandma, Answer me. I don't remember. I do. It was 3 years ago when you got sick with the flu and your mother was in Miami. You called me, scared, because you had a high fever. I dropped everything and came to take care of you for 2 weeks. Yeah, I remember. And after that? No? I don't remember calling you on my own. Laura intervened furiously. Enough of this ridiculous interrogation. Ethan is a busy young man. He has his own life. He can't be calling his grandmother all the time. But he can come and ask me for money all the time. That's completely different. Different how? Different because when you need something, you remember I exist? Look, Mom, I'm tired of your drama. Either you give Ethan the money, or we'll know what that means. And what does it mean? It means you're not the grandmother you always were. It means you've turned into a bitter old woman who loves her money more than her family. The words struck me like slaps. A bitter old woman. That's what her daughter thought of me. Laura, I want you to tell me something with total honesty. If I didn't have any money, if I were a poor little old lady living on Social Security, would you visit me as often? What a stupid question. Answer me. Of course we would. Liar. The word escaped my lips with a clarity that surprised me. You're both lying. If I were poor, if I couldn't give you money every time you needed it, you would visit me on Christmas and my birthday. Maybe. That's not true, Ethan protested. Isn't it? Tell me one thing you know about my life that doesn't involve money. Do you know what my favorite TV show is? Do you know what aches when it rains? Do you know what I worry about when I can't sleep? Ethan just stared at me, speechless. Do you know my favorite food? My favorite song? My fondest memory of your grandfather? Complete silence. You don't know anything about me because you've never been curious to know who I am beyond the woman who gives you money. You're being unfair, Ethan mumbled. Unfair? Ethan, do you know that your grandfather died on March 15th? Yes. Do you know what today's date is? October 15th. It's been exactly 7 months since your grandfather died. 7 months. Do you know how many times you've asked me how I'm feeling about his death? More silence. 0 times. Not once have you asked if I'm sad, if I miss him, if I need company. But you have asked me for money 4 times in these 7 months. Laura finally exploded. That's it. You're being manipulative. You're emotionally blackmailing us. Emotionally blackmailing you? I'm emotionally blackmailing you? Yes. You're using my dad's death to make us feel guilty. I stood up and walked to the door. I opened it all the way. I want you to leave my house. What? Leave. Now. You can't kick out your own grandson. I can and I am. Ethan, you can come back when you want to get to know your grandmother as a person, not an ATM. Laura, you can come back when you learn to treat me like your mother, not your employee. You're crazy. Completely insane. Maybe, but it's my craziness and my house. Leave. Ethan looked at me, his eyes moist. Grandma, go, sweetie. When you're ready for a real conversation with me, I'll be here. They left in a huff. I heard Laura shout from the street, "You'll see when you really need something from us." I locked the door and leaned against it. For the second time in 2 days, I had said no. And for the second time, I felt free. The next 3 days were the strangest of my life. For the first time in decades, my phone was silent. No calls from Laura asking for favors. No texts from Ethan asking if he could come by for a meal. No surprise visits asking to borrow money. It was a silence that scared me at first, but slowly, it turned into something like peace. The first day, I woke up at 6 as always. But instead of rushing to make breakfast in case someone showed up, I stayed in bed for 5 extra minutes. Just 5 minutes, watching the sun stream into my bedroom. When was the last time I had done that? When was the last time I allowed myself to wake up slowly, without rushing, without thinking about what someone else might need from me that day? I got up and went to the kitchen. I made my coffee, but this time I didn't make a whole pot. I just made 1 cup. For me. Just for me. I sat at the kitchen table and for the first time in years ate breakfast in total silence. No TV, no radio, none of the constant noise I used to fill the loneliness. Just me, my coffee, and the sound of birds in the backyard. It was a different kind of loneliness. Not the loneliness of abandonment, but the loneliness of choice. For the first time, I was alone, because I had decided to be. After breakfast, I did something I hadn't done in months. I went for a walk. I put on my most comfortable shoes and set out to explore my neighborhood. Lincoln Park had changed so much since we moved here 25 years ago. Now there were chic cafes, art galleries, international restaurants. I walked down the street and stopped in front of a French bakery called Le Café Jolie. Through the window, I saw people reading books, working on their laptops, chatting quietly. They looked happy, at peace. I went inside. The place smelled of freshly baked bread and roasted coffee. A young woman greeted me with a genuine smile. "Good morning, ma'am. A table for one?" "Yes, please." She sat me by a window overlooking the street. She brought me a menu, and I looked at the prices in disbelief. A cappuccino was $5.50, a croissant $4. It was more than I usually spent on food for an entire day. But for the first time in my life, I had money. Real money. Money I didn't have to account for to anyone. "I'll have a cappuccino and a chocolate croissant, please." When my order arrived, I took the first sip of the cappuccino and almost cried. Not because it tasted different from the coffee I made at home, but because it was the first time in decades that I had bought myself something just because I wanted it. Not because I needed it. I stayed there for 2 hours. Watching people pass by on the street, observing the other customers, feeling something I had forgotten existed. Tranquility. When I got home, instead of starting to clean as I always did, I went into Michael's study and took out all the papers for my bank accounts. I spread them out on the kitchen table and began to really study them. I had 3 rented condos in the same neighborhood where I lived. 3 condos that each generated $2,000 a month. $6,000 a month for doing absolutely nothing. I also had the investment accounts totaling over $1 million, earning interest every month. I did some quick math. Between the rent and the interest, I was generating roughly $8,000 a month, more than Laura earned working 8 hours a day. And I had never touched that money. For years, it had been accumulating while I lived on my small widow's pension, worrying about every dollar I spent. The second day, I decided to do something bolder. I called a taxi and went downtown to the Loop. I hadn't been downtown in over 3 years. I walked down Michigan Avenue, went into the Art Institute of Chicago, and sat in Millennium Park. The Art Institute had an exhibition of contemporary American art. Admission was $25. Before, I would have thought it an unnecessary expense. That afternoon, I paid without a second thought. I walked among the artworks for an hour. I didn't understand everything I saw, but I loved being there, surrounded by colors and shapes someone had created just to express beauty. In one of the galleries, I came across a painting that stopped me in my tracks. It was an older woman, like me, sitting in a rocking chair. But she didn't look sad or abandoned. She looked strong, serene, whole. The title of the piece was The Woman Who Found Herself. I stood in front of that painting for I don't know how long, feeling as though the woman in it was speaking directly to me. On the way home in the taxi, the driver asked, "Have a nice outing, ma'am?" "Yes," I replied. "Very nice. It's been a long time since I got myself such a gift." "A gift? Someone gave you a gift?" "I gave it to myself." The man looked at me in the rearview mirror and smiled. "Those are the best kind, ma'am, the ones you give yourself." On the third day, I worked up the courage and went to the bank. I wanted to see my accounts with my own eyes, to fully understand my financial situation. The bank manager, a woman my age named Patricia, received me with great courtesy when I explained I wanted to review all my investments. "Mrs. Reed, your husband was a very intelligent man. Look at these numbers." She showed me on her computer how my investments had grown over the last 5 years. The money had multiplied impressively. "And I can access this money whenever I want?" "Of course, it's all yours. You can withdraw whatever you like, whenever you like." "All of it?" "All of it. You are the sole account holder." I sat in that bank office, looking at numbers on a screen that represented a freedom I had never imagined having. "Patricia, can I ask you a personal question? You've worked with money for so many years. Do you think it's wrong for an older person like me to spend on herself?" Patricia took off her glasses and looked me straight in the eye. "Ma'am, in my 30 years at this bank, I've seen thousands of cases. And I'll tell you something. The people who spend the least on themselves are always the ones who give the most to others. But there comes a point in life when you have to ask yourself, what part of my money is for me? And what's the answer? Whatever part you decide." That afternoon, I returned home with a completely new feeling. For the first time in my adult life, I was in control of my money. I decided how to spend it. I had power over my own life. I sat in my rocking chair with a cup of chamomile tea and thought about the last 3 days. I hadn't cooked for anyone but myself. I hadn't cleaned thinking someone might visit. I hadn't answered calls asking for favors. And I hadn't felt guilty once. The phone rang at 8 that night. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Hello? Grandma? It's Ethan." My heart skipped a beat. "Hi, sweetie. How are you?" "I'm confused. My mom told me not to talk to you, but I can't stop thinking about what you said the other day." "What did I say?" "About us not knowing anything about you." "It's true, Grandma. I don't know your favorite food. I don't know what you like to watch on TV. I don't even know your favorite day of the week." Tears started to well up in my eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. "Do you want to know?" "Yes. My favorite food is my homemade cherry pie. My favorite TV show is Grace and Frankie because it makes me laugh even if I don't always get the jokes. And my favorite day of the week is Wednesday because on Wednesdays everything is in the middle and I feel like anything is still possible." Ethan was quiet on the other end of the line. "Why have I never asked you that before?" "Because we've never had a real conversation, sweetie. Only conversations about what you needed. Can I come see you tomorrow, just to talk, without asking for anything?" "Of course. Come whenever you want." What about my mom?" "Your mom can come when she's ready to apologize. For real, not out of obligation." "Do you think that will happen?" "I don't know, Ethan. But for the first time in my life, I'm not depending on whether it happens or not. I'm going to be okay either way." I hung up the phone and went to sleep. For the first time in decades, I fell asleep without worrying about anyone but myself. And I slept like a baby. Ethan came the next day, just as he'd promised. He arrived at 3 in the afternoon, without Laura, without being in a hurry, without that anxious look of someone who's come to ask for something. "Hi, Grandma." "Hi, sweetie. Want some coffee?" "I'd love some." We sat in the kitchen like we hadn't in years. Just the two of us, without the shadow of Laura rushing the conversation toward some request. "You know something?" he said, sipping his coffee. "I forgot how good your coffee tastes." "It's the same as always, Ethan." "Yeah, but I was always in a hurry before. I never took the time to really taste it." We talked for 2 hours. He told me about college, his favorite classes, a girl he liked but was too shy to ask out. I told him about the knitting class I wanted to take, The places I wanted to see now that I knew I had the money to travel. Grandma, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you really have as much money as my mom says? I laughed. What does your mom say? She says you have a hidden fortune and you're playing the victim so you don't have to share it with us. Laura's description hurt, but it didn't surprise me. Ethan, I'm going to tell you something no one else knows. But I want you to promise you'll understand it with your heart, not your wallet. I promise. I told him everything. The inheritance I never knew I had. Michael's investments, the rented condos, the millions of dollars that had been in my name for years without my knowledge. Ethan was speechless for several minutes. $3 million? $3 million. And you never knew? Never. Your grandfather protected me from knowing because he knew if I knew we had money, I would have given it all to you and your mom and been left with nothing for my old age. And was he right? I thought for a moment. Probably. If I had known I had all that money when your mom asked for the $2,500 for your laptop, I would have given it to her without a second thought. And now? Now, I'm not so sure that's the right thing to do anymore. Ethan nodded slowly. Grandma, can I tell you something I've never told you before? Of course. Sometimes I was embarrassed by the way my mom talked to you, like you were her employee, not her mother. His words pierced my heart. Why did you never say anything? Because I thought that's just how families were, that moms always gave and daughters always took. But I've been thinking these past few days, and I realized how wrong that is. Really? Really? My mom is 45, she has a job, a car, an apartment. Why is she asking you, an elderly person, for money? Because I always gave it to her. But that doesn't make it right. I looked at my grandson with admiration. At 20 years old, he had understood something his 45-year-old mother refused to see. Ethan, do you know what hurts the most in all of this? What? That for years, I thought the problem was me, that I wasn't a good enough mother, that I hadn't taught you the right values, that I didn't deserve your love. That was never true, Grandma. I know that now, but it took me 72 years to realize it. We were quiet for a moment, each lost in thought. Are you going to forgive my mom? He finally asked. If she comes here, apologizes from the heart, and promises to change how she treats me, of course I'll forgive her. She's my daughter, but I won't keep pretending that her disrespect is normal. And if she doesn't come, then I'll move on with my life. I no longer depend on her love to be happy. Ethan stayed until 7 that evening. When he left, he hugged me differently. It wasn't the quick, formal hug of before. It was a real hug, with genuine affection. I love you, Grandma. Not for your money, for you. I love you too, sweetie. 3 days later, the doorbell rang at 10 in the morning. I looked out the window and saw Laura's car parked outside. I also saw another car I didn't recognize. I opened the door to find Laura there, accompanied by a man in a suit I'd never seen before. Hi, Mom. This is James Roberts, an attorney. We need to talk to you. A lawyer? What do you need a lawyer for, Laura? To protect my rights as your heir. The words hit me like a slap. Laura had brought a lawyer to claim the inheritance that I was still alive to enjoy. Come in, I said, trying to stay calm. They sat in the living room. Mr. Roberts took a folder out of his briefcase. Mrs. Reed, your daughter has informed me that you have a considerable estate and that you are refusing to share it with your family. Share it? Yes. You understand that as your only child, Laura has certain rights. Mr. Roberts, I interrupted. Excuse me, but what rights does my daughter have to the money that I have earned and saved throughout my life? The man shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Well, legally, as long as you are alive, you are the sole owner of your assets. Exactly. As long as I am alive, Laura interjected impatiently. Mom, don't play games. You don't need all that money anymore. You're old. You don't travel. You don't buy anything. What do you want it for? What do I want it for? I repeated slowly. Laura, do you know what money is for besides giving it to ungrateful children? Don't talk to me like that in front of the lawyer. I'll talk to you however I want in my own house. Mr. Roberts, what is your professional opinion of a 45-year-old daughter who brings a lawyer to demand money from her 72-year-old mother? The man turned red. Well, every family is different. Every family is different. But there are lines of decency that shouldn't be crossed, don't you think? Laura stood up furiously. Enough with the victim act. You've manipulated me my whole life with your long-suffering mother routine. I've manipulated you? Yes. Always with your sad little face, always making me feel guilty for having my own life. Laura, when did I make you feel guilty for having your own life? Always. With your, oh honey, so good to see you, and your, it's been so long since we talked. So expressing my happiness at seeing you is manipulation. When you do it to make me feel bad, yes. And when did I ask you for money? What? When did I ever ask you for money? You say I'm manipulative. Manipulators always want something. What have I ever asked you for in these 45 years? Laura fell silent. I'll tell you what you've asked me for. $2,500 in loans you never paid back. Plus the favors, the meals, babysitting Ethan, the free advice, the emotional support through your divorces and breakups. And do you know what I've asked for in return? More silence. Respect. Affection. For you to treat me like your mother, not your employee. I have always respected you. I stood up and went to my bedroom. I came back with a shoebox I had stored in my closet. This box holds every note and text message you've sent me in the last 5 years asking for money. Do you want me to read them out loud? I opened the box and took out the first piece of paper. Mom, urgent. Need $500 to fix the car. Just a loan. Signed, Laura. I pulled out another. Mom, lend me $1,000 for Ethan's school registration. I promise I'll pay you back next month. You never did. And another. Mom, do you have $300 for my hair appointment? I have a very important meeting. Laura was looking at me with pure hatred. Do you know how many messages I have in here from you asking how I am? How many telling me you love me without asking for something in return? I turned the box upside down. Dozens of papers fluttered to the floor. 0, Laura. 0 messages of love. 0 questions about my health. 0 interest in my life that didn't involve my wallet. Mr. Roberts stood up. I think this is a family matter. Perhaps I should— Yes, I said. You should leave. This is between my daughter and me. The man gathered his briefcase and practically ran out the door. Laura and I were left alone in the living room, surrounded by the papers that were evidence of our relationship for the past several years. Do you know what's saddest about all of this, Laura? What? That I would have given you everything. All the money, all the properties, all the savings. But I wanted you to love me first, to respect me first. I wanted to be your mother before being your bank. You are my mother. No, I am the woman who gave birth to you. But a mother is someone you love, respect, and care for. Not someone you only remember when you need money. Laura began to cry. I do love you, Mom. Do you love me, or do you love my money? I love you. Then prove it. Come see me without asking for anything. Call me to find out how I am. Ask me what I need from you for a change. And if I do, will you forgive me? Laura, I've already forgiven you. Forgiveness isn't something you negotiate, but respect is. And respect is earned with actions, not with words. My daughter stood there in the middle of the living room, looking at the papers scattered on the floor as if they were the fragments of a relationship that had never been what she believed it was. What do I have to do? Start over. Get to know me. Respect me. Love me for who I am, not for what I have. And my inheritance? Your inheritance will still be yours when I die. But while I'm alive, my money is mine. And I'm going to spend it on myself, on my joys, on my happiness, because I've earned it. Laura left without saying goodbye. But for the first time in my life, that didn't hurt. I had found myself. 2 weeks passed with no word from Laura. Ethan visited me every 3 days, and our conversations became the highlight of my week. We no longer talked about money, favors, or needs. We talked about life. Grandma, you know what Mom told me yesterday? What did she say? That you're sick. That you've become selfish because of your age, and that old people get like that when they feel like they're going to die soon. Laura's words hurt, but they no longer destroyed me like they used to. And what did you tell her? I told her this is the first time I've ever seen you truly alive. My grandson was right. For the first time in decades, I was really living. That afternoon, after Ethan left, I made a decision I had been putting off for days. I called a travel agency. Good morning. This is Amelia Reed. I'd like to plan a trip. Of course, ma'am. Where would you like to go? To Europe. I want to see Paris, Rome, Barcelona. I want to see everything I never got to see. When would you like to travel? As soon as possible. Are you traveling alone or with someone? Alone. Definitely alone. The agent explained they could arrange a 3-week tour of the major European cities, with an English-speaking guide and all-inclusive. The cost was $12,000. $12,000. A month ago, that amount would have seemed impossible to spend on myself. That day, without a moment's hesitation, I said yes. How will you be making the payment, ma'am? Wire transfer. Today. I hung up the phone and sat there in the kitchen, smiling like a little girl. At 72 years old, I was going to see Europe. Alone. With my own money. Because I wanted to. I went to the bank that very afternoon to make the wire transfer. Patricia, the manager who had helped me before, greeted me with her warm smile. Mrs. Reed, how wonderful to see you. What can I help you with today? I'd like to make a transfer for $12,000 to pay for a trip to Europe. Patricia looked at me with admiration. How wonderful. Are you going with family? No, I'm going alone. It's my belated birthday present to myself. I think that's perfect. A woman your age deserves to enjoy what she's worked for her whole life. While Patricia processed the transfer, she asked, May I ask you a personal question? Of course. Don't you feel guilty spending so much money on yourself? The question made me think. A month ago, I would have felt like the worst mother in the world for spending $12,000 on a trip. Today, I feel guilty for waiting so long to do it. What changed? I understood that sacrificing myself didn't make me a better mother. It just made me an invisible woman. Patricia smiled. My mother is your age and has never dared to do something like this. I'm going to tell her your story. Maybe it will inspire her. I left the bank feeling light, as if I had left a burden of decades in that office. I walked down Michigan Avenue, seeing everything with new eyes. The cafes, the bookstores, the clothing stores. Everything seemed possible now. I stopped in front of a boutique I had always admired from the outside but had never entered because it seemed too elegant for me. Eleanor's Boutique, Classic Women's Apparel, the sign read. That day I went in. A young woman greeted me politely. Good afternoon, ma'am. How may I help you? I need new clothes. I'm traveling to Europe and I want to look dignified. Of course. What kind of clothes are you looking for? I don't know. For years I've only bought practical things. I want something that makes me feel beautiful. For the next hour, I tried on dresses, blouses, pants, and shoes I had never imagined wearing. The sales associate, whose name was Sophia, treated me like an important client. This turquoise color is perfect on you, ma'am. It brings out your eyes. Really? Absolutely. Look, I stood in front of the full-length mirror and didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. It was me, but a version of me that had been hidden for decades. How much is all of this? That will be $3,000, ma'am. $3,000. About half of what Laura took home in a month. I'll take it all. I paid without hesitation. As Sophia wrapped my new clothes, she asked, May I say something? Of course. I can tell it's been a long time since you bought something nice for yourself. How can you tell? By the way you looked at yourself in the mirror, as if you were meeting an old friend again. That night, I tried on all my new clothes in front of my bedroom mirror. Each outfit made me feel different, not just more elegant, but more like myself, as if I were finally wearing the clothes that matched the woman I had always been inside. The phone rang at 9 o'clock. It was Ethan. Grandma, my mom wants to talk to you. Does she want to talk or does she want to ask for something? I think she really wants to talk. She's different, quieter, sadder. Do you think she's being sincere? I don't know, but I think it's worth finding out. Tell her she can come tomorrow at 5 in the afternoon, but tell her to come alone, and not to come here to make demands. If she comes to ask for money or to blame me for something, I won't see her. I'll tell her, Grandma. Ethan, one more thing. What is it? I'm going to Europe in 2 weeks. Are you serious? Serious. I'm going to see Paris, Rome, Barcelona. Everything I've always wanted to see. That's incredible, Grandma. I'm so happy for you. Me too, sweetie. I'm so happy for me. The next morning I woke up early, not out of habit, but out of excitement. It was as if my body knew something new was beginning. I ate breakfast slowly, savoring every sip of my coffee. Afterward, I went to the backyard garden, which I had neglected for years. The plants were dry, the pots broken, the soil cracked. I decided to bring it back to life. I went to the local garden center and bought flowers, new soil, colorful pots. The owner, an older gentleman named Mr. Henderson, helped me choose the prettiest plants. "These begonias will look lovely by the window," he said as he loaded the bags of soil into my car. "Do you think it's too late to start a new garden?" Mr. Henderson laughed. "Ma'am, the plants don't know how old you are. They only know if you care for them with love." I spent the whole morning working in the garden, planting, watering, arranging each pot until everything looked perfect. By noon, my hands were dirty, my clothes were stained with soil, and my heart was lighter than it had been in years. My garden looked beautiful, colorful, alive, full of possibilities. At 5 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. It was Laura. She was alone, as I had asked, and she was holding a small bouquet of flowers. "Hi, Mom." "Hello, Laura. Come in." She sat in the living room, in the same spot where she had sat with the lawyer 2 weeks earlier. But now she looked small, vulnerable. "Mom, I came to apologize." "Apologize for what?" "For everything. For treating you like my personal ATM. For not valuing you. For bringing that lawyer. For being a bad daughter." Her words sounded sincere, but I had learned to be cautious. "What changed your mind?" "Ethan. He's been telling me about the conversations you two have. He tells me you talk about your dreams now, your plans, your tastes. And I realized I didn't know any of that. And does that matter to you? It hurts. It hurts so much to realize that I know my coworkers better than I know my own mother." Laura started to cry, but they weren't tears of manipulation. They were real tears of genuine remorse. "Mom, can you teach me how to know you again? Are you sure that's what you want? Because the new Amelia is very different from the one you knew. I don't say yes to everything anymore. I don't put others' needs before my own. I don't feel guilty for being happy. I want to know that new Amelia. Even if that new Amelia goes to Europe without telling you? Even if she spends her money on herself? Even if she's no longer available every time you need something? You're going to Europe? In 2 weeks. 3 cities, 3 weeks. My first international trip." Laura looked at me with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "That's incredible, Mom. You don't think it's selfish?" "No, I think it's brave. For the first time in years, I saw something in my daughter's eyes I hadn't seen before. Respect. Laura, I'm going to give you a chance. But it has to be different this time." "How?" "You're going to come here to get to know me, to ask about my life, my likes, my fears, my dreams. You're going to be interested in me as a person, not as a problem-solving mother. And if I do it right, if you do it right, maybe we can build a new relationship, one where we both respect and care for each other. And my inheritance?" The question stung, but it no longer surprised me. "Your inheritance will still be yours when I die. But while I'm alive, you're going to have to learn to love me for who I am, not for what I have." Laura was quiet for several minutes. "Can I start now?" "Start how? What's your biggest dream, Mom?" The question took me by surprise. It was the first time in decades anyone had asked about my dreams. "My biggest dream is to reach 80 and feel proud of the woman I was. Not just the mother I was, but the woman." "And how are you going to do that?" "By living for myself too. Seeing new places, learning new things, making friends, feeling that my life is worth more than the services I can provide for others." Laura nodded slowly. "Can I be a part of that dream?" "If you truly want to, yes." "Can I start right now?" "How?" "Tell me about your trip to Europe. I want to know everything. The places you'll visit, what you're most excited about, what scares you the most." I looked at my daughter, searching her eyes for any trace of the old manipulation, but what I saw was genuine curiosity, real interest. For the first time in years, I started telling Laura about me, and for the first time in years, she really listened. It's been 8 months since that afternoon when Laura asked me about my dreams. 8 months since I decided to stop being invisible in my own life. I'm sitting in a small cafe in Montmartre, Paris, writing these lines in a journal I bought in Rome. Tomorrow I return to Chicago after 3 weeks of exploring Europe, but I am not the same woman who boarded the plane at O'Hare. This woman who is writing has hands tanned by the Tuscan sun, is wearing a dress she bought in a Barcelona boutique simply because she liked how it looked, and feels no guilt for having spent $20,000 on this trip. This woman learned to say good morning in 5 different languages, and made friends with a 75-year-old French woman who has been traveling the world alone since she was widowed. This woman discovered that happiness is not inherited. It's built. Yesterday I called Ethan from my hotel. "Grandma, how's it going?" "Incredible, sweetie. I saw the Eiffel Tower at sunrise yesterday. I got up at 5 in the morning just to see it without all the tourists." "And you weren't scared being alone in a foreign city?" "At first I was. But then I realized something. I've been alone for most of my life, Ethan. The difference is that now I'm alone by choice, not by abandonment." I also spoke with Laura. In these 8 months, something has changed between us. Not everything, not overnight, but something real and profound. It started with small questions. "Mom, what's your favorite memory from when you were a little girl? What would you have liked to study if you'd had the chance? Do you miss Dad when it rains?" Questions a daughter should have asked decades ago, but that are never too late to ask if they are sincere. A month after our conversation in the living room, Laura came to visit on a Sunday afternoon. Not to ask for money, not because she needed something. She came because she wanted to show me photos from her work, tell me about her projects, ask my opinion on things that had nothing to do with loans or favors. "Mom, you know, I've never seen your garden look so beautiful. I fixed it up myself. It took me days, but I chose every single plant personally. Can I help you next time?" It was a simple question, but heavy with meaning. Laura wanted to help me, not for me to help her. 2 months later, when my trip to Europe was all set, Laura surprised me with an unexpected proposal. "Mom, I want to take you out to dinner, to celebrate your trip. You want to treat me?" "Yes. Wherever you want to go." I chose the most elegant restaurant in the Gold Coast. One of those places I had never entered because they seemed too expensive, too fancy for a woman like me. That night, Laura arrived on time, elegant, and for the first time in years, she truly looked me in the eye when she spoke. "Mom, I want to apologize for something else." "For what else?" "For making you feel like you weren't enough. You were always more than enough. I was the one who wasn't enough of a daughter." Her words touched my heart, but no longer from a place of pain, but of healing. "Laura, do you know what hurts the most when I look back on these years?" "What?" "It's not the money I lent you that you never paid back. It's not the favors you never thanked me for. It's the time we lost." "What time?" "The time when we could have been friends, not just mother and daughter. The time when we could have known each other as women, not just as family roles." Laura fell silent, her eyes moist. "Do you think we can get that time back?" "You can't get back what's already passed, honey, but we can build new time." During dinner, we talked about everything. Her fears as a single mother, my travel dreams, how we had both carried the weight of hurtful expectations for years. At the end of the night, when we got to my house, Laura didn't get out of the car right away. "Mom, can I tell you something?" "Anything. I'm proud of you." "Why?" "For daring to change at 72. For teaching me that it's never too late to respect yourself." Those words were worth more than all the "I love yous" she had never said. Now, from this Parisian cafe, I see my life with a clarity I never had before. For decades, I believed that being a good mother meant disappearing as a woman. I believed that loving my daughter meant sacrificing everything I was for what she needed. I believed my value was measured by my usefulness. I was wrong. True love, the love that heals and strengthens, doesn't come from invisibility. It comes from wholeness. A mother who loves herself teaches her children to value love. A mother who respects herself teaches her children to respect. But a mother who sacrifices herself until she disappears only teaches her children that love is synonymous with losing yourself. Ethan texted me yesterday, "Grandma, my girlfriend wants to meet you when you get back. I've told her so much about you that she already feels like part of the family." Laura called me the day before yesterday. "Mom, when you get back, do you want to take a French class together? I want to learn so I can go with you on your next trip, if you'll have me. Her next trip, if I'll have her." Those words made me smile. She no longer assumes she has an automatic right to be part of my plans. Now she asks, humbly, if she can be included, and that changes everything. Tomorrow, when the plane takes off from Charles de Gaulle bound for Chicago, I will not be the same woman who left 3 weeks ago. I will have walked the streets of Rome, imagining how women my age lived during the Renaissance. I will have gazed at the Sagrada Familia in Barcelona, thinking of all the beautiful things human beings can create when they are not limited by fear. I will have sailed down the Seine at sunset, understanding that life, like this river, keeps flowing even as the scenery changes. I am returning home with suitcases full of memories, photographs, and gifts I bought for myself. But more importantly, I am returning with something I had lost without realizing it. The certainty that I deserve to take up space in the world. At 72, I learned that it's not selfish to want to be happy. It's responsible. It's not wrong to spend money on yourself. It's healthy. It's not cruel to set boundaries. It's necessary. And it's not too late to start over. It's never too late. When I get to Chicago, I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to invite Laura and Ethan over to see my travel photos. Not because I need their approval or because I want to show off. I'll invite them because I want to share my joy with the people I love, from a place of abundance, not of lack. And if one day Laura slips back into her old habits, if she starts treating me like a bank instead of a mother, I know what to do now. I won't shrink. I won't make myself invisible. I won't believe that I am the problem. I will remember this woman writing in a Parisian cafe, with tanned hands and a free heart, who discovered that self-love is not a luxury, it is a right. And I will act from that place of strength, not weakness. Because I finally understood something that changed my life. I don't need anyone's approval to be valuable, not even my children's. I am valuable because I exist. I am important because I am here. And I deserve love, respect, and happiness for the simple fact of being human. I am no longer the invisible woman who received frozen dinners for her birthday. I am Amelia Reed, 72 years old, international traveler, a free woman. And this is just the beginning of my new life. Before I close this journal, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever experienced something like what I've lived through? Have you ever felt that your love was not valued by the people you cared for the most? If the answer is yes, I want you to know something. It's never too late to start respecting yourself. It's never too late to set boundaries. It's never too late to be happy. Share your experience in the comments. Maybe your story will inspire someone else who needs to hear they are not alone. And if this story moved you, please give it a like and share this video. We never know who needs to hear this message. That we all deserve love, but first, we have to give it to ourselves. Until the next story, and remember, your life has value, no matter your age.